Hello and welcome to this how to play video for Dungeon Map Maker. This is a game where we are going to create our own dungeon map, and then we are going to create our own character that's going to explore the dungeon, trying to complete a main quest, fighting foes along the way. So that's the premise of the game. The first half of the game is going to be drawing our map, and the second half of the game is going to be exploring our map. But before I even talk about the setup, I do want to just talk about the cards a little bit and how to set those up. Okay, so there are a couple of ways you can put together the cards for the game. You can, of course, just print them double-sided and then cut along the edges. The only problem with that is if your printer is like mine, when you print things double-sided, sometimes the alignment at the back isn't great. So if you're normal, that's not going to bother you. But if you're like me, that will annoy you, and you might go with the second option, which is to just print them single-sided and then sleeve them, which obviously protects them as well and eliminates the need to print off any more if they do get damaged. So those are the two kind of card to card options. Another final option is you just don't cut them out at all and just print the sheets. This is a game that doesn't need lots of card shuffling or anything like that, so you can just print off the sheets of cards. And also, if you just want to play one game and see how you like it, you can just print off one double-sided sheet and yeah, just go from there. So I hope that helps. Okay, so here is the game setup. We have our dungeon map sheet here where we'll be making our dungeon map. Then we have our character sheet here. And then we have a bunch of cards that we're going to use to help power the game, and at the moment they're all face up on their mapping side. But in the second half of the game, when we explore the dungeon, we'll flip them over and we'll see what is inside the dungeon itself. Over here we have 10 cubes in 5 pairs of different colors. These are just used for the exploration phase, as is the character sheet. We also have our 3 dice, D20 and 2 D6, and we have a pencil and an eraser. And that's all you need to play the full game. Now, the game is separated into 2 very distinct phases, and with that in mind, we don't need some of these components for the first part, the mapping phase. So we don't need our character sheet, we don't need a character card or the shop card on the back, and we also don't need any of these character or monster cubes here. So I'm going to put those away and set up for the mapping phase. And here we are set up for the mapping phase. Now the mapping phase is going to take about 30 to 60 minutes, which is about the same as the exploration phase. So a full game of Dungeon Map Maker is going to take about 1 to 2 hours in total. Presuming that you don't lose before the end of the game, which is possible. But how do we win? How do we lose? What are we doing in Dungeon Map Maker? Well, to begin with, we have to create a map, of course, in the mapping phase, which is the first half of the game. And the main card that we need to focus on is card number 1, which gives us our main quest that we have to complete in order to proceed to the exploration phase. So to complete it, we need to get at least 10 time from this quest. So we need to score 10 time. And this description here tells us how we can earn that time, and we're going to get 2 time per room in the most direct route from the dungeon entrance to the boss. So we're going to hopefully create a map that isn't so interconnected in this case, but it just leads in a long and winding way to the dungeon boss, and that's going to give us lots of time. So this is the main thing we're going to be doing in this case, but there are 6 different sets of cards, and so that means there are 6 different main quests. So depending on what you choose as part of setup, that will be different as well. Beyond that, we have 5 other cards we'll use to create the rooms, and that also have quests in them, and these are side quests. We have our dungeon quest, a room quest, monster quest, a loot quest, and a boss quest, and each of these will give us gold that we can then score and earn to use in our exploration phase. So these are the main cards you're going to use in the game. You're going to have 1 of each number from 1 to 6 represented. But you also might notice that there are some different types of cards, different numbers at the bottom, and these are part of different sets. And so I have 3 of A set, 2 of the B set, and 1 of F set, which you can mix and match as much as you want. You could have all the same set, or you can have 1 of each set. It doesn't really matter. So as long as the 1 to 6 numbers are represented. In this case, I'm also going to use a blessing and a curse card, which are optional cards that you can add to your game to give your game a bit more, a bit more thematic flavor, or some extra things you can do. The blessings will make the exploration and the mapping phases a little bit easier in general. They'll give you something handy to use, while the curses don't really affect the mapping phase so much, but they will make the exploration phase just a little bit harder. So this can also be a way to make the game a little easier if you're finding just a standard mode a bit tricky, or to make it more difficult if you want a real challenge. So those are blessings and curses. With blessings, after you add a room from a certain card, then they give you an option to do something. It might be to collect an item or to add a feature to your map that's going to help you. Or whereas the curses, where after you add a room from a number, you must do what it says on the card, unless you cannot. So in this case, it says after you add a room from card 2, you must dead end an opening and block a doorway. Now you have to do that if you can, but if it's impossible due to the layout of your map at the time, then you don't need to do the curse cards. But in general, you're mostly going to be able to do whatever it says. So that's all the setup basically. I won't go into the scoring criteria for every side quest card, but suffice to say that we're going to be focusing on the main quest as we go. Let's have a quick look at the dungeon map sheet itself. Over here we have a spot to write our scrolls that we'll be collecting whenever we place a room from the lower section of the card. Then we have our dice results table up here. Then we have our results scoring section from the end of the game up here. And then of course the majority of the game sheet is the map itself. Yeah, I think that's all you need to know as part of setup, and I think we'll get started with the first turn of the game, which is adding your dungeon entrance and your first room. So we're going to start by rolling our 3 dice. And okay, we get 5, 6, and 6. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to introduce the doubles rule about the 6s, and that is in the mapping phase, if the 2 dice are doubles at any point, you may re-roll them if you like. And in this case, for the purposes of the game, I think I will. So I'm going to re-roll them. You can do this as much as you can, but you cannot roll the D20 if that's doubles with something else. So I'm going to write the 5 there for the D20, then I'll re-roll the other dice, and that's 3 and 5. All right, so the D20 always gives us an area within our dungeon where we have to place the dungeon entrance or a monster or loot. So we're always adding an icon from the D20, and in the first round it must be the dungeon entrance, and there's only going to be 1 dungeon entrance in the game. So I have to place it here, and I can place it in any space here, but I think I'll place it here. All right, so here's my dungeon entrance, and that is the D20 sorted. Now the 2D6 have to be used in the following way. I have to use one of the numbers to choose one of the 6 cards, and so I could choose card 3 or card 5, and then I choose the other number. The other number is going to give us how many openings come off of the room that I've chosen. With the first room that you add, it must either contain the dungeon entrance or be connected to the dungeon entrance, so to have the dungeon entrance in an adjacent space. So, all right, so here's the first room I've added. I've chosen the tomb, and the reason I've chosen that is because it gives us a scroll to use. And scrolls can be handy because they allow us to add or subtract 1 to any of the dice results, which is very handy. They also, or optionally, they allow us to reposition a monster which can be handy if you've placed a monster in the wrong spot. And they allow us to close an opening with a dead end, which is a way of avoiding point deductions at the end of the game. So scrolls are handy, so that's why I wanted to get one. So I've added the room, but I do need to add the openings too. And the room was from cart 3, so I need to add 5 openings. Now, openings are going to be like half a space, and they're just going to branch off of the room you've added. In this case, they cannot branch off of these walls here because that's outside of the region of the map. And they also can't be touching a wall like here, so I can't add openings here. So these spaces are not okay, but any of the other wall spaces are okay to add openings. So I think I might add one here. Oh, another thing is you can't have 2 openings next to each other like that. So you can't have parallel openings. There has to be at least one space between parallel openings. However, you can add 2 that are coming off a corner in the same space. That is okay. So let's add one here. We need one more, maybe. Okay, so there we go. I've added my room, which I chose the tomb. I could have chosen the tap room. The tap room's a local pub. The trap room. So in the second round, I got a 2, 2, and 6. All right, the results up here. And now from the second round onwards, the number of the D20 tells us where we need to place a monster or a loot chest. Most of the time you're going to be placing monsters because you can basically always place monsters. However, loot chests can only be placed, well, firstly, they have to be placed in rooms, and the room that you place it in has to have more monsters than loot in it already. So with these restrictions in mind, it's not early on in the game, you're not going to be able to add lots of loot chests, but as you go on, you'll be able to add some loot using the D20. So I will add a monster icon in any one of these spaces. Maybe I'll place it here. Now, monster icons, it's okay if they're not in rooms at the time of placement. However, by the end of the game, you do want to make sure that all your monsters are inside rooms. Otherwise, you'll lose 5 points per monster that is not inside a room, and you'll need to reposition it into a room. So we want to avoid that. So that's our monster done. Now, the room we add, in this case, we got a 2 and a 6. So we can choose a room from card 2 or card 6. And I think I will choose card 2. And maybe I'll add the gallery. No, maybe I'll add the bat cave. Yeah. And it's going to have 6 openings. So yeah, so I'm going to choose this room with 6 openings because 2 and 6. So let's go ahead and add that. Okay, so here we go. I have chosen the Batcave from card number 2, and I've added 6 openings to it. And here, where these openings actually connect to the previous room, which you have to do in the game. And when that happens, you can draw a little doorway here to show between both of them to help separate the rooms, just so you remember that these are separate rooms. Now, I also want to mention that this card has an icon in it already, so you have to make sure you place the icon in the same spot. However, you can rotate or flip where the location of the icon. So I could have put it there, but I put it there just to show you that. And the only other thing to do is, because I have to remember our curse. Because I've added a room from card 2, I must do what it says on card 2, which is I must dead end an opening and block a doorway. So this kind of shows you that curses aren't always a bad thing for the mapping phase, because in this case I probably wanted to dead end one of these doorways here anyway. So, and blocking one of the existing doorways isn't going to be a big problem because I have 2 doorways into this room as it is. So that's not going to be too restrictive. So yeah, so here we are. I have dead ended this opening here, and I've blocked this doorway here. And if you're ever curious what the effect will have in the exploration phase, You can always turn the card over and just see what it's going to do in the next phase. So in this case, we cannot move through caved in doorways. So if you know you're going to play the exploration phase too, then you can look ahead to see how the blessing or the curse might affect you. Alrighty, so the dungeon has progressed a bit after 5 turns. We've added 5 rooms, and now on round 6, we have rolled a 19, a 2, and a 6. So in this 19 area, I can't place a loot, so I might place a monster here. And I wanted to talk about the room that appears on the lower part of card 6, which is always a free-form room and lets you choose how the dimensions of the room, as long as you follow the rules here. So in this case, it's the grotto, which gives us a room that can be any size or shape, but must have at least 9 connected water spaces. So I'm going to use a 6 for that, and it's going to have 2 openings, and maybe I want to include the monster in that room, but I do need to make sure it has that these water spaces here. So let's add that room. All right, here, so I've added the grotto, and I've made a kind of freeform shape that is a bit odd, and the reason I've kind of cut the room, cut around this 20 is just because of the dungeon quest, which is going to give us 2 gold per area number that's not inside the dungeon. So I'm trying to put that outside of the dungeon in a bit of a sneaky way, so to earn a couple of bucks there. So that's just an example of the different freeform rooms that can appear in the game. Again, it's usually just on card 6. Yeah. All right, so now I wanted to explain how loot works. I've rolled a 19, a 2, and a 4. And the 19, 4 of the space, I could put a monster up here. I could put a monster in these spaces, but I can also put loot in one of these spaces here, because it meets the 2 criteria of being in a room and that room having more monsters than loot. Even if there's just 1 monster and no loot, that's still more. So I can go ahead and add the loot, maybe in this corner here. I can draw a little chest. Okay, next I want to show you about using scrolls. So I have just rolled a 5, a 5, and a 6, and with the 5 I've added a loot. If you can kind of see that there, there's loot to this room because it has more monsters than loot. I could have chosen monsters and another monster, so you can do that as well. You don't need to choose loot even when it's an option. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about is using scrolls. So I've chosen with the 5 and the 6. I've used the 6 to choose another grotto, and I've drawn this here. Let me add the doorways so make it a bit easier to see. There we go. Now I've only added 4 doorways, even though I rolled a 5, because I don't want to continue this this section up here, because then it's going to make the whole dungeon a bit more interconnected, which I don't want in this case, due to this main quest of kind of encouraging a long and winding dungeon. So I'm going to use a scroll and change the 5 to a 4, so then this room only needs 4 openings. So that's one way where you can use scrolls, and once you've used one, just check or shade it in to show that it's exhausted. And yeah, that's it. The other ways you can use them is to reposition a monster. So if a monster is if I wanted to move this monster to a different space within the same area, I could do that, or you could use it to dead end an opening. Yeah, those are the main ways. Now again, I've added this room from card 6, so I do collect a scroll as well. So even though I spent one, I get one back. But it is important to say that if you choose a room that gives you a scroll, you can't use that scroll on the same turn. So I'll be able to use the scroll from this room on the next turn, but if I didn't have any scrolls, I couldn't have used the one I'll gain to change the die result, because it's in the same turn. Yeah, so that's scrolls. Okay, so we are up to the 11th round, and this may be the final round because I've just rolled an 18, a 2, and a 5. Now, if we remember, our boss quest was going to give us 20 gold if our area numbers if the area numbers of the dungeon entrance, 5, and the boss equal 21. So that would mean that I really want to place the boss inside the 16th area. Now, I just rolled an 18 for the D20, which may give us the best chance of putting a monster there. And at the end of the mapping phase, you're going to choose one monster to become the boss. So the monster, so I'm thinking that this might be a good chance to put a monster there by changing the 18 to a 16 and then later turning the monster into a boss. I hope that made sense. I don't know about that explanation. In any case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 scrolls. So you can use as many scrolls as you want in one turn to make the 18 a 16. You don't need to rewrite that as a 16, just as long as you know. And then I put the monster here. And I put the monster here with the intention of then later turning it into a boss, but I still need to add my room, so I'll go ahead and do that now. All right, and that's going to be the end of the mapping phase. Now, the mapping phase can end in a few different ways. It can end if you finish the 20th round, then you have to end there. In this case, we just did 11. It can end if you cannot add any more rooms because there's either no space or there's no openings, which there aren't in this map. So that's how this mapping phase ended. Or it can end if you just choose to end. So you might be in a position where you can add more rooms, but you do think, no, I don't want to because it's going to maybe make me score worse. So that's potentially a way that it's your choice as well. Now, after you finish drawing the rooms, then you need to nominate the boss. In this case, because I want to make sure that the boss is as many rooms as possible away from the dungeon entrance here, and because I want to put the boss in area 16 to get that 20 gold from quest number 6, I'm going to choose this monster to be the boss. And to do that, all you need to do is just circle the monster icon, and now this is now the boss of the dungeon. Okay, and now we score. So I'm going to start with quest 1A, which is up here. I can put the A here. And this is really the most important quest, because if we don't earn 10 or more, then we fail the entire mapping phase and we can't even earn any gold. So we're going to hope that we've earned at least 10. And we earn 2 time per room in the most direct route from the dungeon entrance to the boss. In this case, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're in the most direct route, so 7 times 2 is 14. So we did pass that mapping phase, which is good, and now we can earn gold. So we start with dungeon quest number 2. In this case, it's 2B. And we earn 2 gold per area number not inside the dungeon. So we just this is pretty simple. Just go through and look at each area number, see if it's inside the dungeon or not. So 4 is not, so that's 1. 7 is not, 2. 9 is not, oh, that's nice. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, so we did quite well there. We were able to earn 20 gold from quest B. 2B. Next 3A is we're going to earn 4 gold per room containing 3 different icon types. Icons can be the boss icon, the monster icon, the water icon, the fire icon, the barrels. So lots of different icons. However, the only 2 rooms I see that have this is room number 5 has the dungeon entrance, the treasure chest, the loot chest, and the monster. So that's 3 different icons. So we earn it for that. And also down here, this room here has the water, monster, and loot. So that also has 3. So we get 8. 8 total for that. Next, the monster quest gives us 2, 5, or 10 gold if a room contains 2, 3, or 4 monsters. There's actually only one room that contains more than 1, which was this room here, which contains 3. So we're going to earn 5 gold for that room, for that quest. Next is 5A, and this gives us 4 gold for any room that has loot, and there were just 2, we only added two loot chests here and here, so that is 8 gold. And finally 6F, we talked about earlier, we get 20 gold if the area numbers of the dungeon entrance and the boss add up to 21. So 5 plus 16 equals 21, so we get 20 gold. And then finally we lose any gold. We lose 1 gold per dead end that we haven't, for opening that we need to make into a dead end. And there, I was able to close off everything, so there's nothing lost there. And then the last thing we lose 5 if there are any lost monsters. So this can happen if you put a monster and it's like outside of the dungeon, like if there was a monster like here, for example, that would be -5. But we don't have any, so no deductions there, thankfully. And then we can tally up our gold, which are 28, 33, 61. So 61 gold, that's pretty good, and that will allow us to buy things at the shop in the second half of the game, the exploration phase. So there's a shop card, so we'll be able to purchase some goodies there. And that's about it. The only other thing to mention with the mapping phase is if you are only playing the mapping phase, then you could play solo against the AI opponent, and that would just be adding up these scores. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've calculated the AI opponent score, and they've earned 66. So I didn't quite beat them in the solo challenge. And that, again, that's only if you're doing the mapping phase by itself. You don't need to worry about adding up the solo opponents. Another thing, you could play against your friends as well if you wanted. So the mapping phase can be also played in multiplayer mode. Yeah. All right, so I think that's it for the mapping phase. We're going to come back with the exploration phase, but first I'm going to do the unnecessary step of going over the map, adding a bit more details to it, so then it'll just show up a little bit better in the exploration phase. Alrighty, and now we are on to the exploration phase. I have gone ahead and added some ink to the map that I made earlier, just so it shows up a bit on the camera. And I did want to say as well, this map will be included in the sample maps available with the game. So if you wanted to try exploring this map yourself, you can. Yeah, but anyway, the exploration phase, we have all of our cards from earlier flipped over to the exploration side. The main quest from mapping has become our main quest in the exploration phase, and this is actually really the only quest you need to complete, which in our case is to defeat the dungeon boss, which is this character over here. All the other cards are monsters. So previously they were quests in the mapping phase, and now they are different types of monsters that can potentially appear in the dungeon, and of course the boss, which will appear in this space. So they're the cards. Now, usually with the blessing and curse cards from earlier, we would flip them over and have them to the side just to remind us of the rules in play. But with these two particular blessings and curses, this card here, the secret tunnels, that never actually came up during the mapping phase, so I don't need to include that because I didn't add any secret tunnels. And with the cave-in, I've actually gone ahead and just removed those blocked doorways that were in the map. So then they're not in the map anymore anyway. So I'm just going to put those to the side. But just mentioning that if you with many of the blessings and curses, you should put them to the sides just to remind you of their ongoing rule. None of them are particularly complicated, but just in case you come across the blessing or the curse in the dungeon. But yeah. All right, so we have our character sheet here. And there are a few steps that you have to do when you set up your character. So first you choose your character card. There are 6 different characters, and I've chosen the occupation of a monk, which is a character occupation that has pretty good movement speed, and also has their own spell stone, which is an ability that is usually a bit more powerful than weapons. And the monk spellstone is to instantly defeat all pests and minions. So any pests and minions that are in the room will just get defeated as well at the one time if we're able to use it. And there's also each occupation has their own ability, which in the monk's case is to heal 1 immediately after defeating a monster. So that could be handy. So I just need to really recall the ability as we're going through the dungeon. So I've chosen my card. I've given my character a name. It's Susan. This is Susan the monk. With the health track, I do need to mark down my character's health, which is 11. So I just there are no characters have less than 10 maximum health. So that's why the 10 are already pre filled in. But I just added that extra health for the monk, and then we were able to get 14 time as part of our mapping phase. So that's why I have traced 4 more squares here. So these each square here represents a room that we can explore in the exploration phase. And of course, there's a minimum of 10 time is required to complete the mapping phase. So that's why there are 10 pre-traced. The next step is to write the values of your skills, your occupation skills, and then also to choose one of the 2 starting weapons that your character always begins with. I could choose the staff, which will allow me to attack any monsters in the adjacent or diagonal spaces around me for 2, or the whip, which is going to do 3 damage to monsters that are 2 spaces away in front and then either side of that. So I've chosen the whip, and you can assign it to any of these spaces. Sorry, any of these weapon slots. And I've assigned it to 5, just because if I roll a 5 or a 6, then I'll be, if I roll a 5, I'll be able to use it. And if I roll a 6, then maybe I'll be able to change the 6 into a 5 and use the weapon if I need to. So that's why I chose 5. But you can choose any weapon slot, and you can have a maximum of 6 weapons. You can have a maximum of 6 spell stones too, and you can have a maximum of 4 relics. You don't start with a relic, but you are able to purchase them or find them in the dungeon as loot. I think that's about it for the character setup. The next step of the setup is to look at the shop card. Now, I'm using the shop card from Shop C, but you can use any shop card when you during this part of the phase. And this is where we use the gold that we earned earlier to buy some items that we can use in our dungeon. So I was able to get 61, and I thought about this before, and I think the best option would be to get a red sword and a dungeon key, because the red sword's a decent weapon and that we can maybe put in the 6th slot, and the dungeon key is what we need to open these loot chests. And so that's why I'm thinking I'm going to go with those 2. So I'm going to go ahead and add the dungeon key. So with the dungeon key, we don't need to write anything. We just circle this spot here to show that we have 1 key available. And then with the red sword, we're going to write the name in a slot. I think I'll choose the 6th slot for the old red sword. And so, yeah. So, and then its stats are, it is going to do 4 damage, and it also has a life drain trait, which means that any damage that I do to a monster, I'm able to use that to heal myself. So that could be pretty handy. With swords are a common item in the dungeon, so rather than filling in the attack pattern like I have for the whip, you can fill the attack pattern here if you want, or because swords just let you attack an adjacent monster, you can just kind of fill this slot in, fill in the sword icon, just so then you know that there's a sword. You don't need to write the attack pattern there. And it is worth 4, and it has the life drain trait down here. So I will just trace that so I know that it's going to do life drain if it's able to damage an enemy. And so with that, there's actually no gold left over. So I'm just writing 0 here. But if there was leftover gold, I would mark that down here, because it's not really that useful in the one exploration phase. So if you're just doing this, just a one shot game of Dungeon Mapmaker, then it doesn't really matter. However, if you were to continue and do another map after this with the same character, which is something you can do, then you could use leftover gold and combine it with the gold you earn in the next mapping phase, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so there's a spot for gold here. The other things I want to talk about briefly are the fragments. These are part of main quest C, so they're not part of this quest, so we don't need to worry about it. And there's the essence track here, which is a resource that we earn by defeating monsters. So you can see here that if we defeat a bat, we get 1 essence, whereas if we defeat a cave bear, for example, we're going to get 3. So the more powerful the enemy, the more essence you earn. And you need essence to be able to activate spell stones to use them. So I'll need 1, 2, 3, 4 to be able to use this spell stone. And so that's why I assigned it to this slot here, because I'm more likely to be able to use it earlier. Although I need to roll 2 6s to actually be able to use it. So I might not be able to use it at all in this particular playthrough. The only other thing to mention with the essence track is every time you earn 15, you're able to upgrade either your max health, move, block, or attack. So that can be helpful. But I think that's about it, and I think we're ready to start entering the dungeon. Oh, the only other thing I think that is left to do, I should say, is to actually number our rooms. Now you can do 2 things. You can pre-number them. So I have 11 rooms, and I could number them all now. Again, the room numbers are going to be different from the area numbers, because rooms can span different areas. So they will be different. So, and you can write them before you start the exploration phase, or you can just write them as you're going through the exploration phase, which I think I will do in this playthrough. And oh yeah, and just one more thing is here we have our cubes. 8 of these cubes, so four pairs are going to be to track monsters, and one of them is going to be to track Susan. And let's put Susan back. Susan's adventuring through the dungeon. It's worth mentioning as well, in this space, if you wanted to, rather than placing a card here, you could draw your own character and then just record the ability description here if you wanted to add that personalized touch. Alright, so we're going to begin our exploration phase, and we start in the first room. And the first step is we check if there is a monster in the room or a nest, and in this case, so that's a nest, but in this case there is a monster. So we have to work out which monster it is, and it could be one of these 4. We need to find out by rolling a d20, which is a 5, and then which would be a pest. So there are 4 different types of monsters that we roll the d20 for. We have pests, minions, beasts, and elites. And in this case it is a pest, which is a bat. So we put 1 cube on the first health track, and 1 cube to represent the bat's location. And we should also put a cube here for Susan's health. Alright, so the bat is, there can be a max, the bat has 3 health tracks. This just means that there could be up to 3 bats in the one room, but the other monsters either have 2 or just 1. That just means that if you were to roll, if you have multiple monsters and you rolled more than 1 cave bear, for example, you wouldn't actually choose the cave bear for the second monster. You would choose the next monster down, which would be the bandit in this case. But we've selected the monster, and now it's time to start combat because there's a monster in the room. The way combat works is we're going to roll all the dice, and the d20 is going to represent the monster's attack, and then the 2d6 is going to be what we can do in the dungeon. So let's see. All right, so we have 1, 5, 10. 1, 5, 10. And Okay, so if we look at 10, 10 is going to tell us what the monster is going to do, and we can see here that the bat is actually going to run away. So the bat's going to try to get as far away from our character as possible. So the good thing about that is we're not in any danger this round, whereas the 1 and the 5 is what we can do. So, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the skills and weapons and how they get used. With skills, we whatever die we assign to each of these 4 skills is the value of that skill, except for focus, which I'll talk about in a moment. So basically, if we assign a 1 to move, then we can move 1 space in the dungeon. The only thing is we do have a maximum value for each of these, and if you go over the maximum, the skill doesn't do anything. So we couldn't move 5. If we assign a 5 to that, doesn't mean we move 4, it just means we don't move at all. So you have to be careful with that. You don't want to go over a particular skill. And so we have move, of course, then we have block. That's going to reduce the damage. In this case, the bat isn't going to attack us at all, so it wouldn't make any sense to do a block right now. And the other skill is a basic attack, which is like a weapon attack, but attacking the adjacent space to where your character is. And we just have a max of 2, so our basic attack is pretty weak. Now, as for the weapons are the value of how much damage a weapon does isn't related to the weapon slot that it's in. So this red sword could be in slot 1 and it's still going to do 4 damage every time. So that's the difference between the skills and the weapons, is having a matching number just activates that weapon, but it doesn't have any relation to the actual value of the attack. So with that in mind, it doesn't make any sense to use a weapon on this turn because we're too far away and we can't get within range. So I think the best thing we can do is to use a skill that I haven't mentioned yet, which is the focus, which allows us to effectively discard 1 die to either subtract or add 1 to the other die. And I want to discard the 1 to change to subtract 1 to make this a 4, so then we can move 4 and get closer to the bat to hopefully attack that on the next round. So we move 4, and we always move left to right or up and down when we move around. You can't move diagonally in Dungeon Mapmaker. So that's our turn. That's our turn for the round. And then the bat's turn, it's going to move its maximum move, which is 4, to run away, or to flap away in this case. And it's just going to get as far as it possibly can away from us using its movement. And if there's ambiguous spaces, like if there's multiple spaces that are equidistant away from your character, you can just choose which space it goes to. But in this case, it's pretty obvious. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 that the bat is going to flap away to the corner of the room, and that's 1 round. So then we move on to a new round. Okay, now the bat has got a 4, so it's going to attack us potentially, whereas we got a 1 and a 6, and again we can re-roll either or both of these dice if we wish. Or we could just, but we need to think that if we get too close to the bat, it could attack us and we don't attack it. So another thing you can do is you can just ignore, you can just not assign your dice to anything and just not take an action. So, but in any case, I'm going to re-roll just to maybe think about getting closer and attacking. So I could have, if I had rolled a 3 and a 5, I could have moved 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I would have been able to use the whip. But as it was, I couldn't. So I'm just not going to take an action because I don't want to get too close to the bat, which could potentially attack me. So next, it's going to be the bat's turn, and they're going to use they're going to use their movement to get within range, which in this case is within basic attack range, so in an adjacent space to my character cube. So they would go 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, they could also go here. Either space is the same and they get, but you can choose in that case. So even if it's you choosing to advantage yourself, you can, that's fine. But anyway, they'll move there, and that's the end of that round. Go again. 13. So the bat is going to try to get away again. So this is a very indecisive bat. First it wants to attack, then it wants to get away. But I don't think it's going to get away this turn, because I'm going to assign 1 to move, and then I'm going to assign 6 to my red sword. And oh, by the way, one thing I haven't mentioned is with skills and weapons, you can only assign 1 die per skill or weapon on one turn. So I couldn't, if I roll double 6s, for example, I can't use the red sword twice in the same turn. Anyway, I'm going to use the 1 to move 1 space closer, and I'll use the 6 to do 4 damage, which in the bat's case, because they're not blocking at all, they're planning on running away, they don't mitigate any of the damage I do to them, and they have been defeated. And doing so earns me 1 essence, and I can remove the bat's location cube. I go up 1 essence here. There we go. And also, just a reminder that the monk's ability is to heal 1 after defeating a monster. But I didn't take any damage during that combat, so you can't heal past your maximum, so that doesn't have any effect. Okay, so that's 1 combat done. The next step in exploring a room is to search the room. And searching is almost like a mini game in which you're going to roll all 3 dice 3 times. And if the sum of the dice ever matches any of these 4 numbers, you get to find that item. So we're looking for 9, 10, 25, or 26. So maybe we'll start. And I got 5 plus 18. So I got, that is 23. So that doesn't match. However, I can keep any of these values for the next round. So maybe I'm thinking it would be good to get another dungeon key, or maybe it might be good to get a soothing extract. So maybe I'll keep the 2, a lower number, and re-roll the other numbers. 20, 23, and 5. All right, so that's 25. So even though I was maybe hoping for a lower, to find something in the lower range, I actually found an attack potion. And when you find something, you just find it straight away. Even though that was just the second roll, you don't keep on searching. So that's it. I found something. I found the attack potion in this first room, which was a tomb, I believe. So maybe the previous occupant of the tomb left an attack potion for when they got resurrected. I'm not sure. But that's the search phase done. And finally, if there's loot, you can also spend a key to open the loot chest, which I think I may as well do. So I'm going to spend a key, put a check mark here, or I shade that to show that I've exhausted it, and then I see what type of loot I got by rolling a d20. Oh, that was a bad roll. Let's go again. 12. All right, and then the roll you got, you need to match to one of the loot options down here. So for 12, that fits in the 7 to 12 range. And this is a spell stone. So the first one, we have different things you can find. You can find a relic, spell stones, or weapons. But I got a spell stone, which could be handy, and does an attack of 10. And so I can assign that to any of my available slots. And I think it makes sense to assign it to 11. And hope that I can collect some more essence soon, and then be able to use it. So that's that done. I did want to mention as well, if you already have the first loot item, then you collect the second loot item. So you can't choose one or the other. This is just to say if you already have that, then you can take the second option. That's why there's that second option there. So if I open up some more loot in the future and it's a 10, for example, I wouldn't collect the second. There's only one of each spellstone, so I wouldn't collect another thump. I would just collect an attack doubler there. But that's done. So that's one room explored. The only other thing to do is to mark down which room that you've explored it. So mark down the time. So I'm going to say that was room 1. Put 1 there. And I'm just going to number the rooms as I go. But as I mentioned earlier, I think you can number all the rooms at the start of the exploration phase and then just count them as you go. But I'll let you just do it as I go, number them as I go. My recording stopped midway through my exploration of this room, which contained a nest, so that none of that recording was saved, unfortunately. But I just want to mention that whenever you move into a room that has a nest, even if there are no monsters in it, a pest monster is going to spawn on the nest as soon as you enter the room. And so you're going to place its health cube and location cube on the nest, and then another round of combat will begin, and potentially there could be other monsters in that room as well. And the nest itself is going to keep spawning pests on the space or in adjacent spaces at the end of each round. So you want to defeat that as quickly as possible. In this case, it wasn't too hard because the doorway I entered from was right near the nest itself, so I was able to just destroy that. And spoiler alert, I also defeated the bat in a quick round of combat as well. So that's nests. Okay, so my audio recording stopped working during this part of the video, so this is probably a blessing in disguise because I can probably more easily and quickly explain what I wanted to talk about here. And this was mainly just that when you come into a room that has multiple monsters, you need to roll the d20 for each monster, starting from the closest monster to your character's cube, just to determine which monster's which. And if you've already selected the maximum of that monster type, for example, you can only have a maximum of 1 beast type monster and 1 elite type monster, then you would choose the next option down, which if it's a beast, then the next option would be a minion. So that's the main thing I wanted to explain in that part of the video. Okay, we're back. We've made a little bit more progress through the dungeon, and we are up to our final room. Now, in this penultimate room, I faced off against a bat and defeated it and took my essence up to. I also need to recover 1. My essence track is now was up to just under 10, but then in the search phase of the room, I was able to get a 26 and collect some monster remnants, which means that I have reached the 15 essence required to then upgrade either my health, move, block, or attack. Now, I think my weapons are doing pretty well with the attacking, and looking at the boss that we're about to face, getting block could be an option, but their attack isn't that strong. So I think what we'll do is we'll improve our maximum health. So the way to do that is, my current health is 9. I just need to remember that, is I just fill in 1 more square on the health track, and now my maximum health is 12, but I don't recover any health in doing that upgrade. So I have upgraded to 12 health now, and now we're ready to go. Now I can choose any one of these doorways to enter. We know that the monster is going to be the boss, which is Blackjack. So I think we want to get as close to him as possible at the start. So I think we'll come from this entrance, and then we place our cubes like so. Let's see in the final finale if we can complete our main quest by defeating the dungeon boss. We're looking pretty good. Health is a 9. Few different items we can use. We've got an attack doubler, a couple of healing items, but let's see if we can defeat the boss. Okay, with the first round they got an 8, so they're going to attack us for 4. And we got a 5. This could work actually. Or do I Yeah, I think I'll do that. So I'm going to use. I'm not going to reroll. I'm just going to move 1 ahead. Going to use a 5 to use my whip. And Blackjack's not blocking. Oh, I forgot. Our relic means that he starts on 1 less health. But he's not blocking. We hit him for 3 with our whip. meaning that he is now down to 10, and it's his turn. And his action is 10, so it's going to be to move and attack us for 4. So he gets within range and then attacks us for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And that's the end of the round. Now my health is just at 5, so we'll probably need to use a heal at some point. But I also have the red sword that lets me heal as well. So hopefully I can use that as well. So let's see what's next. All right, 6. So Blackjack's going to do the same attack again. Actually, let's just move that. Just move that here. Make that a bit easier. Sorry, that was a 6. And I rolled a 1 and a 6, which is pretty good. I'm just going to re-roll this in the hope that I can block a little bit. That was a pretty terrible roll, but I'll accept it. So I'm going to block. There's no point in moving at this point. I'm going to hit Blackjack with the red sword for 4. And they're not blocking, so they take full damage. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I recover 4 as well, so that's pretty nice. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quite a good weapon, that. Next is Blackjack doing 4 damage to me. Of course, they move first to get in within range if they need to, but they don't need to move, so they're just going to attack me for 4, but I do block it with 1, so that is 3 damage received. So I'm on 6 health, but I have a couple of healing items up my sleeve, whereas Blackjack is on 6, so they're not looking very good. Let's see. Okay, 1, 1, and 18. All right. So 18 is going to mean that Blackjack's going to do. They're going to potentially do 8 damage. So that could be dangerous. So, but I can re-roll these. 6 and 1. Great. So I can use my red sword, and I can, with the 1, I could block or I can attack. I think I'm going to attack, yeah. Alright, so I'll use the red sword first. By the way, with your 2 actions, you can use them in either order. Not that it matters in this case, but you can attack and then move, or then move and then attack. The only thing you can't do is you can't split a skill. So you can't, for example, if this was a 4, I can't move 2, then attack, then move 2 again. No, you just have to move 4 and then, yeah. Alright, but in any case, that was 1, but first I attack for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Recover those 4. So I'm back to 10 health. I'm looking pretty strong, and then I attack just for 1, bringing Blackjack to within an inch of his life. And now up to the... Oh, not up to the last round. We've got to see what Blackjack does. So he's going to attack us for 8. Right. So we're going to go down to 2 health. Alright. But we could use a heal if we wanted to, or just rely on the fact we're probably going to be able to finish him off in the next round. So let's see what's next. 5. Okay, so they got 10. They're going to attack us for 4. And we could so we're set because we can use the focus to change the 5 to a 6, and then we're able to red sword Blackjack, heal a little bit. Not that it matters, because that's going to be the end of the adventure, and we were successful in completing the main quest because they have been defeated, so that's good. But even if you finish the main quest, you still finish the remainder of the tasks. You still finish the remaining actions that you can do within that room. So of course we collect Blackjack's essence, which in this case isn't going to matter too much. Well, it's not going to matter at all because it is the end, but it is worth keeping in mind, because if that was enough to get us over the threshold to upgrade our character in some way, then we could use that in a future dungeon if we wanted to continue the campaign. And then we do search the room. We got 11, 15, 26. Oh, we got some more monster remnants. So some old monster flesh lying around. Again, it's not really going to matter because essence is the one thing that does reset at the end of the round. Now, and that was room 11, we'll say. If there was a loot chest here, we could also open it using one of our keys, but there's not. Alright, so I think that's going to be it for this how to play video for Dungeon Map Maker. Thank you for checking this out. If you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments in the video, or if it's about different rules, I'm sure it's covered in the rule book. And failing that, you can always post a question in the Board Game Geek Dungeon Map Maker page, and I'll try to get onto answering that as quickly as I can. Yeah, I hope this gives you a good sense of how the game plays. And yeah, thanks again for watching. And I am going to make this particular map available in the sample maps included in the game. So if you wanted to try this map out for yourself in the exploration phase, you could, or if you just want to have a look at it, you can do that too. There are some more detailed maps in our Dungeon Map Maker map pack that me and along with a bunch of really great artists have been working on to give you some ideas about how to craft your own more detailed dungeon maps, if that's something you're interested in, because a big part of this game is really letting you create your own dungeon map that you could use for other purposes. So maybe you use this same map but you remove the monsters or reposition them in different areas and use them in a role-playing game, or maybe this is maybe you use it for some story writing, or there could be other applications that I hope these maps can come in handy for. But otherwise, that is it for the video. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.